Let's get back into Genesis. We've learned all about the heel grabber himself, Jacob, and what a really awful human being he actually was. He was a terrible person. He had polygamy. He was a polygamist. He was an incestuous person. He was a liar and a cheat. He deceived his own brother. He deceived his own dad. He was a bad person. He really was a bad person. And we have to be honest about that if we're going to read this in its proper context. We're not supposed to be glorifying. When we say we pray upon the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's not we're glorifying Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Far from that. But if he's willing to be merciful and bless these guys, then certainly we who have done far less than these guys have ever done to other people, certainly deserve some blessings ourselves. That's how I see it, at least. You may disagree, but you're going to have to try to prove to me that they're decent human beings. Now, mind you, they were living in a time as there always is times, that always seems to be the time, in the company or being around maybe worse people than they themselves, which is hard to imagine. What a nightmare they must have lived under. But anyways, let's get back into this. Chapter 31 of Genesis. And he heard the word of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and that which our fathers hath gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was now towards him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah in the field unto the flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. So it was okay for him to deceive. Mind you, Laban was deceiving him too, but it seems like a family thing. And two wrongs seem to make a right. And you knew that with all my power I have served your father until, recently when I decided to screw him over like everyone else I ever deal with. And your father hath deceived me, and of course Jacob did deceive him. Isn't that amazing? And changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. It seems like a family tradition, right? He seemed to dismiss everything that he's been up to. Incestuous, sleeping with his cousins, sleeping with their handmaids, making all these babies. But God's going to bless them all. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. If he said thus, the rings straked shall be thine hire, then bear all the cattle ring straked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. Hey girls, hey wives, you daughters of your dad, guess what? I screwed your dad over. It's time to leave now. You hear what he's saying? Now, this might not sound like I'm being very nice about this, but I don't think it should be very nice. We should not be, let me try this. We should not be just so naive and just say, oh well, God was on his side. God forbid, God have mercy on me, Heavenly Father. But I'm reading what I'm reading, and it's the hypocrisy it's just overwhelming. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes, and I saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle with rings streaked and speckles and grizzled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. I said, I am here. He said, lift up now thy eyes, and see all the rams that which leap upon the cattle of the ring streaked, speckled, and grizzled, for I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee, but did not see anything of what he did to Laban and to everyone else. I find this amazing. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointedst the pillar, where thou vowedst to vow unto me. Now arise and get thee out of this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. Well, I thought he was already in the land of his kindred. Now he's going back to his under kindred. Which kindred is which kindred? The cousins or the brother? Go back to your brother who you screwed over. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion of inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God has taken from our father, that is ours, and our children, and now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. And Jacob rose up and set his sons and wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all the goods which he had gotten, and the cattle of his getting, which he gotten from Peder Neram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images of his fathers. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, and that he told him not that he fled. And so he fled with all his that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face towards the mount of Gilead. Let's go back to the descendants of Cain and what they were raising at the time. All right. And Adha bare Jebel. He was the father of such as dwelt in tents, and such have cattle. Whereas, apparently, if I'm not mistaken, Abel was raising sheep. These are the descendants of Cain. Is there any kind of connection? I don't know. Do you know? Regardless, this is a really crafty and scrabbly family that has been read over and over again by select groups of people who then have justified their behavior to this day of how they treat their own family, the people around them. And I believe that part of our problem is this justification of the behavior of Jacob. It's the Mount of Gilead, or Gilad, whatever I pronounce it. And it was told to Laban on the third day, there's that third day again, that Jacob was fled. And he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him the Mount of Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent at the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said unto Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, and timbrance, and with harps? Harp. Hast not suffered me to kiss my sons or my daughters? Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. It is the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not Jacob either good or bad. And now thus thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house. Yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said unto Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went to Jacob's tent and Leah's tent, and in the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. And when he went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent, now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of the women is upon me. And he searched, but found not his images. So even Rachel was a thief and an adulterer, and great. And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Oh, you just took my daughters, my idols, and the cattle, and you deceived me about the cattle. Nothing big. Now, mind you, Laban wasn't a good guy either, but it seems to be an inherited thing. Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, and thou hast found of all thy household stuff, set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years I have been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams, thy flocks, have I not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it, and in my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. So I didn't want to deflect the things that he's done, though. And thus I was, and the day of the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house, and have served thee 14 years for 2 daughters that I didn't deserve at all, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Meanwhile, I was having incest and sleeping with maidservants and doing all sorts of cruddy things and deceiving you. Except the God of my father, God of Abraham and fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely thou hast sent me away now empty. God has seen mine affliction and labors in my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. And Laban answered said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, these cattle are my cattle, and all thou seest is mine. What can I do this day unto these my daughters, and unto my children which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, and let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let us be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. There's that pillar again. And Jacob said unto his brethren, Gather stones. And they took up stones and made a heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jergar Sahadotha. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed. And Mizpah, Jacob even got his way in this one. For he said, The Lord watched between me and thee when we are absent one from another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered sacrifice. This is, by the way, father that he betrayed. He loved so much that he betrayed. Then Jacob offered sacrifice. And by the way, he wasn't a little boy by this time when he actually betrayed his daddy either. Although everyone makes him out to be this little boy. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mountain, called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. In the early morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons, his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed to return unto his place. Well, Laban seems like a pretty decent guy. Well, I don't know if he's a decent guy, but he seems like he's a better dude than Jacob. Yet Jacob's being blessed. And how dare I talk this way, right? How many times has anybody actually read this book the way I'm reading? A more honest approach to this. You see, what is your faith actually in? God or the people in this book? Jacob went on his way, and the angel of God met him. And when God saw him, he said, This is God's host. He called the name of the place Mahanaim. And God sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau, thy servant Jacob, thus Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen and asses and flocks and manservants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in thy sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, because he screwed over his brother. And he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels, and into 2 bands, so he could sacrifice the ones in front of him. And said, If Esau come to one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saith unto me, Return unto thy country, thy kindred, I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies. Now he's getting honest. Now he's really getting honest. He didn't seem to fear Laban that much, but he's fearing his brother now. And all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. How could he be his servant? For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the child. Thou sayest, I will surely do good, and make thee seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. He lodged there the same night, and took that which came to his hand, a present for Esau his brother. Now he's going to try to bribe his brother. 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 ram. 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kin and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 fowls. And he delivered them into the hands of his servants, and every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt, and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth me, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou? Whither goest thou? And whose art these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau. And behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the droves, saying, In this manner shall I speak unto Esau, when ye find him. Mind you, Jacob wouldn't have had any of this stuff if Laban did not hold on to him, one way or the other, right? So, poor Jacob, he got all this stuff that he wouldn't have had if he wouldn't have been with Laban. And say ye, moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is blah, 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 behind us, and I will appease him with the presents that go before me, and afterwards I will see his face, and peradventure he will accept me. And so went to present over before him, and himself lodged in that night in the company. And he rose up in that night, and took his 2 wives and 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the the breaking of the night. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. What that means? What does that mean? And he said, some people say it's an angel, and he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince has thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him, and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it thou that dost ask me after my name? He blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, like the pineal gland, right? For I have seen God's face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose up. It's spelled differently with a U this time, and upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the swine that shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, upon this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shanked. Let me try this again. Did I say swine? Therefore the children of Israel eat not the sinew which shank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shanked. Wow. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came with his 400 men. And he divided his children unto Leah and unto Rachel and unto two handmaids. It's because he's a jerk. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. Because he's a very judgmental person. Incestuous, racist. This is not a good man. And he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near his brother. And Esau ran to him, embraced him, fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Who was the better person of the two? Esau or Jacob? It was Esau. Yet Esau, man, he still was blessed, but man, he was a better dude than, because he had every reason to kick Jacob's butt at the bare minimum, right? He didn't do any of that. He embraced him. He fell upon his neck and kissed him and wept, because no matter how bad his little brother was to him, his big brother still loved him. Where's the compassion for Esau in all this? Where is the compassion for Esau in all this? He lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, and said, who are those with thee? And he said, the children which God hath graciously given thy servant. Then the handmaidens came near, and they and their children, they bowed themselves. I'm your servant for now until I try to screw you over again. And Leah also with her children came near and bowed themselves, and after came Joseph near and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, what meanest thou by all this drove which I met? And he said, these are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother, keep thou hast unto thyself. Who's the better dude? Who is the better dude? And Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand, for therefore I have seen thy face, and thou, as thou, that I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. So you see the face of God in Esau? Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, because I have enough. He urged him, and he took it. He said, all right, you're going to keep pestering me about it. I got 400 men. I can give it to them, right? And he said, let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee. And he said unto him, my Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and that the flocks and the herds are young, as young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant. I will lead on softly, according to the as cattle go that goeth before me, and the children be able to endure until I come unto my Lord in Seir. And Esau said, let me now leave with thee some of the flock that are with me. And he said, what needeth it? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, because he sucketh. And he built him a house and made booths for his cattle, and therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, the city of Shechem, which is the land of the Canaan. And when he came from Padan-aram, he pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of field where he had spread his tent, and his hand on the children of Hamor and Shechem's father, at the hand of the children of Hamor and Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money, whatever that means. And he erected there an altar and called it Elah Lohi Israel. Or I guess that's how you pronounce it. I have no idea how you pronounce it. So once again, the heel grabbler, the jerk, he's just getting away with everything. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite prince of the country, saw her, he took her, lay with her, and defiled her. And his soul cleaved unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, and saying, get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his father. He had no problem defiling everyone else. He had no problem defiling and had committing polygamy and committing incest. He had no problem sleeping with his wife's maidservants. He had no problem sleeping with everybody. He had no problem lying, stealing, cheating, but now it's happened to him. And now he don't like it. Right? Do as I say, not as I do type of thing here going on. And now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they had heard it. Bible, this is also racism. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth. because it was all right for them to have interbreeding, but any outsider breeding with them and having sex with their sister, but basically trying to say that he raped her, right? Because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which things ought not to have been done. And Hamor communed with them, and saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you him to wife. Nah. Make ye marriage with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. No, you guys aren't good enough for us. Ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you, and dwell and trade therein, and get your possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let us find grace in your eyes. What ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor's father deceitfully, and said, because he hath defiled Dinah their sister. So here we go again in this family tradition of deceit, inherited tradition of deceitfulness. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us, because we're better than you. But in this will I consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, every male of you be circumcised. And then we will give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters unto us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us, and to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor, crazily enough, and Shechem's Hamor's son, and the young men deferred not to do the things, because the young man deferred not to do the things, because he had delighted in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. The young man deferred not to do the things, because he had delighted in Jacob's daughter. He was more honorable than all the house of his father. That's quite a statement, considering how dishonorable that Jacob and his family was. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the grace of their city, and communed with the men in their city, saying, these men are peaceable with us, therefore let us dwell in the land and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us to deal with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised. Just like it is today, did you notice? It doesn't mean a thing. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast in theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of the city. Every male was circumcised, and all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, there's that 3 day again, when they were sore, the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, which, remember, the descendants of Levi ended up being the high priest, and it'll be in the synagogue of Satan, by the way. Dinah, brethren, took each man his sword. Dinah's brethren took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. And he slew Hamor and Shichem his son by the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shichem's house and went out. Apparently not even ask her if that's what she wanted, because we don't hear anything about that, because it don't matter what Dinah says anyway, she's just a woman, right? The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. Well, even they have a moral code. Even thieves have a moral code. And he took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field. So they stole everything over this. They killed everybody and stole everything. And all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives they took captive and made slaves. And spoiled even all that was in the house. You feeling real positive about Jacob and his descendants? And yeah, you feeling really good about these guys, are you? And Jacob said unto Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and shall slay me. He doesn't say worry about anybody else. He says me. I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? And God said unto Jacob, rise and go up to Bethel and dwell there, and make there an altar unto God, and that appeared unto thee when thou fleddest from the face of Esau thy brother. Then Jacob said unto his household, and to all that were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. And let us arise and go to Bethel, and I'll make there an altar unto God, who answers me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak, which is called, which was by Shittim. And they journeyed and tarried, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, which is the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, and he and all his people that were with him. But he built an altar and called the place El Bethel, because their God appeared unto him, and when he fled from the face of his brother. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak. The name of it was called Elon Bethchoth. And God appeared unto Jacob again, and when he came out of Padan-aram, and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob, and thy name shall be, and thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thine. The king shall come out of thine loins. And the land which I have gave Abraham and Isaac, and to thee I will give it, and to thee, thy seed after thee will I give the land. And God went up from him in the place where he had talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had talked with him, even a pillar of stone. and he poured a drink offering thereon, and he poured oil thereon. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spake to him Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath. I guess I should pronounce it. And Rachel traveled, probably not saying that right, doesn't sound right, travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass that when she had hard labor, that there was a midwife said unto her, Fear not, thou shalt have a son also. And it came to pass her soul was in departing, for she died. And she called his name Ben-Noni, but his father called him Benjamin. Rachel died and was buried in the way of Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon her grave, and that is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And Israel's journey and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar, or Edar, to pronounce it. And it came to pass that when Israel dwelt in the land, that Reuben went and laid with Bilhah, his father's concubine. All right. Yeah. And Israel heard of it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. And the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, the son of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padan-aram. And Jacob came to Isaac his father unto Menre in the city of Arba, which is Hebron, for that's why they call themselves Hebrew, which Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And the days of Isaac were, and anyways, what happened to this whole thing about having sex with this? And it came to pass that when Israel dwelt in the land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. It's more incest, man. More deceit, more incest, more murder, more double standards, more hypocrisy, as you can imagine. But we're supposed to just love these people, aren't we? Because God loved them. And of course, Isaac, hey, there's my son. I thought Isaac was getting old and blind and all that other. Or am I getting the wrong person? And the days after Isaac were 180 years, as 180. And Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people, and being old and full of days, and the sons of Esau and Jacob buried him. And that's that. So that's 35. That was that. So I don't know. How are you supposed to feel about these people? Why are we supposed to honor these people in the way that we're supposed to honor? God chose these people. More evil people. Evil people. Doing evil things. They don't ever talk much about the good things they ever did. You ever notice that? You notice in this book, they don't talk much about the good things that these people do. They just keep talking about evil. Evil. That's why it's so hard for me to read the Old Testament. You might think differently, but tell me, how am I wrong? I don't want to be wrong. Do you? You see what Jesus did for us, how he fulfilled all things, reconciled us God. Finally, you see, from Adam until the last Adam, Jesus finally reconciled all things so you and I can have a personal relationship with God. We don't need a pope. We don't need a patriarch. We don't need a pastor. We don't need any man, so our high priest or any of that. Our high priest is Heavenly Father himself at this point. Jesus has rectified all things so we can have a personal relationship with God. And we make our decisions whether we do good or evil. And even, have you ever noticed that in this world, a lot of people who do evil get a lot of things in this world? But you don't know the torment and the hell that goes inside them, because you and I are walking temples of God. And when you do evil, it will stick to you like frickin' mud on a pig. And it's going to linger with you forever. In this life. And there's only hope is when we go into the light, that God will have enough mercy on us to forgive us of all the evil that we have done. But many of us, I think, are still, now I could be wrong, but there's an awful lot of people out there, an awful lot of people like Jacob and Israel, and for whatever his name is, same thing, right? And Isaac and Abraham. A lot of these, I don't know. Maybe their faith in God will, and God, maybe when they see the Messiah, they'd like, oh, and they would repent, and when they were in Sheol, in hell, in the earth, and in the grave, I don't know. I hope so for their sake. But I don't one thing. They don't seem like very cool dudes. In fact, they seem pretty darn rotten. Now you're talking about somebody that appreciates this collection of books overall, really. Although I do hate Genesis. And I do hate most of the Old Testament. But I do appreciate the story of the Messiah and what he did for us. It makes me sick to my stomach reading this stuff. I must preserve. I told God I'd read it. I told him I would read it. And I knew when I started reading this that the truth was going to come spewing out of me. And I'm going to get even less. And nobody's going to listen. So what do I do this, God?